Hello. Welcome to the Seth Joyner Show. A week off. I know you Philadelphia Eagles fans are itching, but man, what a great weekend of football games that we got a chance to see. Saw a great game last night, the Rams and the Cardinals. As we roll into the fourth quarter of this 2021 season, and our Philadelphia Eagles are coming in off their bye. Welcome to Talk to Him Tuesday. So I'm just waiting to hear from you guys. I want to see your best questions, your best comments, your best observations. And my producer, Zach, is going to pop up on the screen, your questions, your answers, your questions, your observations, or your comments, and I'm going to answer them. You guys know the drill. We've done this many, many times. Today is strictly about you guys. It's always about you, but, I like to every once in a while have a conversation or Talk to Him Tuesday like this, especially coming out of the bye is big because a lot of questions about, what the Eagles should do between Gardner Minshew and Jalen Hurts, what this team is going to look like. They're now in position, as it seems that, they could probably make a run at the playoffs. Some people feel like, that's not a big deal, but I think anytime you can make the playoffs as a team, it's great to get there so you have the opportunity to experience it. So in a second, we're going to get started with the questions. Looking forward to this Washington football team game coming up this week. Before we get started, I want to let you guys know that I know all season long we've gone on. Usually, we do the giveaways. We haven't done one in a while. And this is just a heads up to you guys. We'll start it next week. The Eagles football, the signed Eagles football, and the signed Eagles mini helmet. We'll be doing a giveaway on the Seth Joyner Show next week. And maybe, just maybe, by the time we get to the last week, we'll do a signed autographed Seth Joyner jersey to culminate the season because we're close to, the holiday season. Happy holidays, everybody. Well, what's been going on in the minds of you guys, you fans? I've been continue to talk Philadelphia Eagles on a couple of different platforms. And I guess, in classic form, everybody says that, what is going on with Philadelphia? Everyone loves the backup quarterback. And the biggest question rolling into this week would be, hey, who do the Eagles go with after that performance by Gardner Minshew against the Jets? Do we continue to go with Gardner, or do we go back to Jalen Hurts? Well, Nick Sirianni, head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, put all doubts about that to the side and let everybody know that, hey, Jalen Hurts is the starter. Jalen Hurts, when he's healthy, will be back, at the helm of this offense. And I, for one, I agree with that because I feel like this year has been all about, trying to evaluate whether Jalen Hurts could be the guy. I just did a show a couple of hours ago, and we talked about this, and I'll share it with you guys. I feel as though the Philadelphia Eagles kind of did this thing in reverse, and with more than anything, I feel like they hurt Jalen Hurts' development, and I'll tell you why. If you look at the New England Patriots and you look at what Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels are doing with Mac Jones, okay, to me, that's the blueprint. Where does that blueprint come from? If you really stop and think about it, it's the same blueprint they use for Tom Brady. When Tom Brady came in for Drew Bledsoe, that team was a defensive-oriented team. They were a two tight end set. They had a plethora of running backs that they could deploy on first, second, and third down. And all Tom Brady had to do those first two Super Bowl victories was just to manage the offense. Now, that's not to say that Tom didn't play well. I mean, he did play well. He made good decisions. He threw touchdown passes, so on and so forth. But I think they were much more reliant on the defense and the run game than they were Tom Brady's arm at that time. As time went on, and you guys remember, they were a tight end centric team. They had Gronk, they had Hernandez, they had other tight ends in the fold. They were running the football. They were, play passing off of, multiple tight end sets. It's exactly what you saw in the Bills game last week, and with Mac Jones. And be that as it may, the weather was bad. Think about the genius of Bill Belichick and what he's creating. Not only is he developing his quarterback the proper way, but now he's put doubt and and he's going to make defensive coordinators really stay up at night trying to figure out how to deal with this New England Patriots football team, because now they can run the ball. When you go up against the Buffalo Bills, who's supposed to be one of the better defensive football teams in the league, and you just take them apart running the football, just line up and said, hey, we're going to run it. Here we come. We're going to run it. We know we're going to stop it. And they couldn't stop it. 44 runs to 3 total passes. Unconscionable. Now, when they line up in those same sets and they go play action pass down the road, not only can they run the ball because they have confidence that they can run the ball because they ran for over 200 yards. Now you got play action pass off of that same look. And how much easier is that going to make for Mac Jones to play the game? And as the years go along, the same way that it happened with Tom Brady. With Tom Brady, they expanded the offense because they had to, playing against Peyton Manning and the Indianapolis Colts every single year. Bill Belichick knew that Peyton Manning and the Colts could score every possession when they spread the ball out the way that they spread it out. So he felt like he had to adapt and evolve. Didn't mean that tight end, those multiple tight end sets weren't in their package. As a matter of fact, you see him even deploying these now, some 10, 15 years later. But what he did was he had to come out with a spread offense to utilize Tom's knowledge, Tom's experience, but also to keep pace with the Indianapolis Colts. And as Tom matured, they gave him more. They spread out. Wes Welker, all of these slot wide receivers. They bring Randy Moss in for a year. Because why? Tom Brady had developed to the point where he could take on more passing when they needed to pass the football. They're doing the same exact thing with Mac Jones. Mac Jones is managing the team, managing the offense. They got 2 good running backs, multiple tight ends. You remember those tight ends they signed in the offseason? And their defense is top 5 in the NFL right now. Same blueprint that he used back then, he's using right now to actually rebuild this football team all over again. Okay, so now the Eagles could have taken a page out of that book and realized that through those first 7 games, you asked Jalen Hurts to go out and throw the ball 30, 40 times a game as if he's been in the NFL for 5, 6, 7 years. He hadn't seen all the blitzes. He doesn't know all the protection. He hadn't seen all the coverages, all the roll coverage, all the fakes, all the fake coverages and all the fake blitzes, all the zone blitzes. So it's really difficult for a quarterback to develop. But we live in an age where when we draft a player today, we don't develop him. We throw him out there and we hope that he picks it up and he learns it right away. And that's not the case with any quarterback. So what I'd really love to see, what the Eagles did after week 7, is they went to a run-centric offense. They dominated the line of scrimmage. And then they turned around, and I believe it was the New Orleans game, is when Jalen had a pretty darn good first half throwing the football. Okay? I think that's the way that you do it. That's the way that you're going to develop a quarterback. Don't believe that every time that you draft a quarterback, that guy comes in with all the skill sets and all the abilities and everything that you need for him to be what you want him to be 3-4 years down the road, because you can see this quarterbacks even right now that are struggling. Lamar Jackson is struggling. How many years is he in the league? Struggling. Patrick Mahomes struggled at the beginning of this year. You look at Josh Allen, who, was probably in the running for, MVP last year. He looks like a shell of himself. Dak down in Dallas, the first, last year, the first couple of games before he hurt his leg, on fire, throwing for 450 yards a game. Comes back this year, picks up where he left off. And now look at him. He's struggling, averaging about 220 yards passing per game over the last 4 or 5 games, okay? So these quarterbacks are going to struggle because you come from college and you see a limited amount of defense. And then you get to the pro level, and there's so many different things that you can see and so many ways that you can be fooled. It takes time to grow. So I hope that the Eagles don't waste these 3 first-round draft picks on going to trade for Russell Wilson or trying to figure out a way to, get Deshaun Watson, even though, he's probably going to be suspended half of the year for any team that he signs with next year, or is traded to, or waste a first-round pick, a top 15 pick, which these 3 picks, probably will wind up being, on one of these 5 quarterbacks that's coming out that nobody believes that they're really, a top flight quarterback, that they're not worthy of being drafted that high. The roster needs improvement, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. You're going to have 11 picks. Do the right thing and keep building the team and giving, Jalen the weapons around him, and continue to build him the right way, instead of expecting him to come from the college game to the pro game and like that understand, how to manage and deal with throwing the ball 30, 40 times a game when you got a good stable of running backs. If you can keep them healthy, just continue to run the ball and do it that way. So let's jump into some of the questions. We'll deal with a lot of the offense in the first half of the show, and then the second half of the show, we'll break it all down and start talking some of the defensive side of the ball. I'm curious. I'm wondering, what the Eagles did throughout the entire bye week. It's a great time for a coaching staff to self-scout, look at what they've done well, and look at what they haven't done well with the extra week, adjust their attack, adjust how they want to move forward post-bye. And I expect, for the Eagles to come out sharp, to come out with some new wrinkles, and to be effective. Lean on the strength of your offensive line and your defensive line, and, be a little more creative in what you do, and go win these last 4 games and get into the playoffs. Right on cue. Bird Gang 31 wants to know, do you think the Birds make the playoffs? Well, listen, I think that the Eagles probably need to win 3 of the last 4 to get to a place where they can potentially be in the picture for a wild card spot. It's highly likely that if they can win 3 of the last 4, that I believe that they get in. And some people aren't so excited about them being in, because they feel like, well, even if they get in, they're gonna have to play the number 2 seed, in the NFC on the road, and they're probably gonna lose. But listen, I can tell you with certainty, I can tell you from experience, any playoff experience you get will absolutely be a good thing. You put that in the memory bank, you put that, in the database. That's information that you can use down the road when you're actually really prepared to compete and be and contend for a Super Bowl. So there's nothing wrong with the team making the playoffs. It's funny to me that there are actually some people out there that believe that, it would hurt the Eagles more to actually make the playoffs. And maybe from a draft position, yeah, but if you got 3 picks all within, the top 15, you're going to get 3 good players. Probably 2 great players out of that if you just, go with what's there instead of going off, running off, doing something that's not smart or trying to act like you're smarter than everybody else. All right. So next question, Romy one more wants to know, do I think Jalen Reagor will have a big game since Watkins is out? Wow. I don't know that Jalen Reagor really has a big game in him. We've been talking about him, especially after the Giants game, trying to figure out, what the Eagles should do to him. Some people have said, hey, they should sit him for a week. They should move Greg Ward into the slot. There's been a lot of conversation about what to do with Jalen Reagor. I think the problem with Jalen Reagor is that, his confidence is shot. I've seen that look a million times. I saw it on Nelly's face when he was going through what he was going through. You can see it on J. Jaw's face, when he's out on the field. You can almost tell by the way a guy walks and how he stands, where his comfort, where his confidence level is really at. I don't think that, Jalen Reagor is a player that can't play. But sometimes if your mind isn't right, you're not concentrating and thinking the right things, if you don't believe that you're the best thing since sliced bread, you don't have to be cocky about it. You don't have to be, conceited about it outwardly. But on the inside, you better be thinking that, you're the baddest dude in the land. And you got to step on the field and play with that type of mentality. When I see him, it almost looks forced. It almost looks forced from the standpoint when you, like last night when I was watching the Monday night game, Jefferson catches that bomb and I'm watching him run and there is no apprehension about whether he's going to catch that ball from Stafford or not. He's just running. He knows that the ball is perfectly thrown and he's almost just like gliding along and the ball just falls in the basket and he runs it in for a touchdown. You don't see that, with Jalen Reagor. Everything looks like it's a struggle. If the ball is right here, it's almost like he's fighting the ball. If the ball's coming over the shoulder, he's trying to figure out how to get his hands right. It's just, when you're not confident in your skills, you're not confident in your own ability, it's hard to just calm down and relax and do what you've already trained your body to do. And when I look at Jalen Reagor, that's what I see. All right. So Michael Switz wants to know, do I label him a bust? I think it's too early to label him a bust. 2 weeks ago, I had Reuben Frank and Derek Gunn on, and we kind of debated whether they should sit him or not, and whether anyone thought that, hey, he potentially could be a bust. And my comment was, Rube said you should sit him a week. Derek and I believe that, hey, you put him back out there and you play him the following week. My thing is, see, when you're a coach, it goes way beyond just X's and O's, okay? Because you never know where these guys come from, what their background is like. I absolutely teams know because they've done their research, especially if you draft a guy 21st overall. But what you do is, as a coach, you hand a guy a game plan on Wednesday. But at the same time, sometimes, as a position coach, you're a father figure. Sometimes you're a mentor. You're a football coach. Sometimes you're even a psychologist for some of these players who have, that don't have the mental fortitude that they really need to succeed at this level. So sometimes, you got to tell a player how good he is, that he wouldn't be on this roster if we didn't think that he could do X, Y, and Z. And sometimes you got to lift the guy up. And I'm not saying that the Eagles coaching staff hasn't done that or that they don't do that. But for me, if I'm the wide receivers coach, I'm in his ear all day long. all day long about how good he is, and we believe in you, and all of those types of things. And yeah, there's a whole lot of outside noise that's going on, but he's got to figure out how to quiet that down and get back to just playing football. Get on the jugs machine, work on your hands, work on hand placement, work on creating that blink reflex, whether when the ball comes or somebody swipes in front of you, that your eyes stay locked on the ball, because it's called hand-eye coordination for a reason. Wherever your eyes are, your hands are going to follow. And I think he'll be fine. So I think it is a little early to look at him and say, hey, he just hasn't worked out. And I get the frustration, but to call him a bust after 2 years, I'd say no. So Joseph wants to know, should the Birds get a stud free agent wide receiver to complement Devontae Smith? Okay. Well, first of all, Joseph, you act like these stud wide receivers are just out there growing on trees somewhere and you can just pluck them off the tree. If a wide receiver is that good and the Eagles can go out there and get him, okay, what do you think it's going to cost them? Very rarely, listen, teams don't give up. Don't let good players walk away, And if you go and you get one via trade, you're going to pay handsomely for him in draft capital. Or you got to go and you got to draft one. If you draft one, now that guy's got to go through the whole youth growth process all over again. What the Eagles need to do is they need to develop the talent that they have. Okay, you got a lot of speed in Quez Watkins. John Hightower has shown, some flash. Even though we haven't seen him at all this year, in his rookie year last year, we saw some good things. We also saw him drop the ball. A lot of times when guys drop the ball, it's a confidence thing, okay? You'll hear me continue to say that, because as a coach, you got to figure out a way to lift your guys up and lift their confidence up so that they can go out and be what they need them to be, okay? So listen, you got Devontae Smith, 10th overall. You got Jalen Reagor, 21st overall. And you got Quez, and you've got Quez, and you've got John Hightower. If my memory serves me correct, they are 5th and 6th or 5th and 7th round draft picks. Okay. Now, the wide receiver coach has got to do his job. He's got to develop these guys, and I would venture to say, and I don't know him, I don't know his name, I don't know what he's capable of, but when I see the head coach working with the wide receivers on a continuous basis during OTAs and through training camp and through, that kind of tells me that, there's an issue there. There's an issue at that position coach. Maybe the Eagles need to go out and bring in a bona fide wide receiver coach that can, teach guys how to catch the ball, teach guys how to run routes, teach guys, the finer points of the game, teach them how to learn everything that's going on around them and not just focusing on what they do, because the game is bigger than just their position. There's a lot going on that these guys need to develop and they need to learn as they play the game. A guy who has some cachet, maybe a guy who played in the league, or maybe a guy who's older, who can speak with experience and give these guys something more than a game plan every week to help them develop. So I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, you want to know that we need to go and get somebody. I would say no. I would just say, let's train, develop, and help mature the guys that we have. Do you guys realize? David Crane said, bring in Mike Quick to work with the wide receivers. Absolutely. Why not? Okay. Why not? Bring him in as a consultant, here or there. Bring him in because the guy knows the game backwards and forwards. He'd be great to work with these young wide receivers. Okay. Now, it would take the wide receivers coach to put his pride aside and realize that this guy's coming in, that Mike Quick's only coming in, and he's going to come in as a consultant, as a help to him. So you come in and you ask him, okay, sit. If I'm Mike Quick, I come in. What are you trying to accomplish? What do you want to do? What's your teaching message? What's your coaching methods? Okay. If you can get all of that information, now I can work with your guy the way that you want to work with your guy, and I can help him in a way that may be a little foreign to you, but it's also an opportunity for a young coach to learn something from a guy who played in the NFL for 9 years. You know, I mean, even when you're a coach, you got to learn how to put your pride aside. Because if a coach thinks that he knows everything that there is to know, and I preach, I talk football till I'm blue in the face, okay? I don't know everything that there is to know. I know what I know about the game, but I don't know everything that there is to know about the game of football. So coaches are always learning. But if I want to be a great coach and I want to help my players, I don't care where I get the information from. I just need the information so I can make my players better. So then that means that I need to figure out how to put my pride aside and say, okay, if there's something for me to learn from this guy, then let me take it. Because it's not only is it going to make my players better, it's going to make me a better coach, you know. But sometimes, you know, these coaches can't get past that, you know. I mean, I see the names, you know, Hines Ward, Harold Carmichael, Jason Avant. I mean, you got all of these guys. Why wouldn't you tap into, you know, those resources? And that's not a referendum on the wide receiver coach that he can't do his job, but everybody needs a hand. Everybody's, you know, especially this coaching staff is so young, you know. Everybody wants me to come be the defensive coordinator. Man, listen, I would love to go over and help out the linebackers coach and help teach these guys, you know, on a consultant basis and help these guys, help these linebackers get better. You know, why not? When I look at a guy like Davion Taylor, I would love to be able to get my hands on him for about 6 months because looking at him, he has all the skill sets. He reminds me of Michael Kendricks, got all the skill sets, but never was really coached properly to maximize all his abilities. Can run like the wind. When they tackle, you know, they tackle with bad intentions. You know, just learning how to play the game, learning how to discipline your eyes and understand what you're looking at, learning how to study the game, you know, so that in game you're anticipating by formation what you think may happen, not guessing but anticipating. So I don't know. It's a tough deal when you talk about developing a group, but I also think at the same time, you know, you need to have teachers. You got to have good teachers who bring an array of knowledge and experience to help players get better. Because again, I say it all the time. I'll say it one more time before we move on to the next question. Every player's ability to get better is limited by the knowledge of the coach who coaches them and the coach that teaches them. If the coach knows a lot, then he can pour a lot into the player. If the coach don't know anything but X's and O's, that's the only thing he can give the player is the weapons of X's and O's. And that's not enough to be successful at any position. All right. Lawrence Melton wants to know, Seth, what do you think is going on with Brandon Brooks? Lawrence, I think that, you know, Brandon Brooks has just had a bad run of, you know, bad luck. I think that the Eagles are kind of at a quandary with Brandon Brooks. Listen, when he's healthy, he is one of the best offensive guards in the game. There's no question in that. The problem is we can't keep him healthy. And I think the Eagles are at this point right now where they're looking at the salary cap and realizing, you know, that they paid this guy for the last 2 years without, you know, any real return on investment because he's been injured. So you have to ask yourself, at what point do you pull the plug on Brandon Brooks? The thing that I would hate to see happen is for the Eagles to pull the plug on Brandon Brooks, whether that's they bite the bullet and eat the rest of his salary, or they trade him away, and for him to go somewhere else and get healthy and then turn around and make the darn Pro Bowl next year. Isn't that sounds like the kind of crap that happens, to Philadelphia teams. That's what it sounds like. So you're in that unenviable space of, okay, the guy hasn't played for 2 years. Do we move on? Do we trade him? Or do we give him one more run to see if he can't get it right? Because it's not like he's an old guy, but the kid can just, listen, when he's healthy, he's a hell of an asset. And can you just imagine having Lane Johnson healthy, Brandon Brooks healthy, Jason Kelce healthy, Landon Dickerson, and then Jordan Mailata on the other side? Can you imagine what a hell of an offensive line that would be? I get this eerie feeling and this pit in my stomach that the Eagles are done with Brandon Brooks. And, like clockwork, it happens every single time. Man, they let him go, he'll go somewhere else, and he'll be healthy, and he'll be a Pro Bowler again. So, all right, Jake Koch wants to know what I believe the under-over will be on 25 runs this week if we jump out to a lead. If we jump out to the lead, yeah, we're going to run the football. Jay, I really don't care about, how much or how often we run it after we get a lead. I think that the run game, especially for this team, and not just for this team, I will say this. If you go and you look at the rest of the league, okay, that whole thought that, hey, you throw the ball often and early, and then once you get a lead, you run the ball to run the clock out. This is what I hear. This is what, the Joe Banners of the world hammer me with. But when teams win by running the ball, 2 or 3 to 1, I don't hear it's crickets from Joe then, But the more and more I look at football now, I think that there's, a move to go back to the running game among teams in the NFL. You look at the teams that are having success. Tampa Bay, Leonard Fournette's running, like he did when the Jacksonville Jaguars drafted him, and what they thought they were going to get out of him then. You look at Tony Pollard, when he's healthy, to me, he's the better back on the Dallas Cowboys right now. And when he's running the ball, the way he's running the ball, even when Zeke is chipping in, or if Zeke has a big day, that offense operates so much more efficiently. And we know that Dak can throw the ball, for 450 yards a game. It just makes more sense, and when you're more balanced and you can get more efficiency out of your offense when you run the football. And you look across the league and you're seeing more and more of it. You're seeing more. What I like to do every week is look at the stat line and see, okay, this team won. What was their balance? What was their pass to run balance? What was the pass to run ratio? And like clockwork, 9 out of every 10 of those wins on every Sunday, teams are balanced. If they're not balanced, they're a little more run heavy. And if they're not run heavy and they're not balanced, they're not off by any more than maybe 5% pass to run. So the teams that don't believe, the teams that hold on to that mantra, that want to continue to die on that hill, to throw early and throw often and get a lead and then run later, okay? To me, those are the teams that find themselves in problems. Those are the teams that got quarterbacks that turn the ball over, sack fumbles, just on and on and on. Look at the Rams last night. They ran the ball. Great balance. Look at the Cardinals. James Conner's having a hell of a year. They didn't even try to establish the run because they, once they got down, Cliff Kingsbury decided he was just going to throw. He put put the game totally on the arm and totally in the hands and on the shoulders of his third-year quarterback, Kyler Murray. So the run game is a big piece of it. It's a big part of it, you know. And if the Eagles are smart, they continue to do, you know, what they were doing in between weeks 8, 9, 10, 11, and then they fell asleep in week 12, and they kind of got back to it a little bit. Last week when my weeks might be off, they got back to it a little bit against the Giants. All right. David Crane says, should the Eagles try and bring back a fullback to their offense? The bigger backs have been more successful, it seems. Listen, I agree. I think that one of the reasons why Miles Sanders, and I'm not going to say I agree wholeheartedly on a fullback. I think that, you know, it would behoove the Eagles to find an H-back type guy, a guy that you can play as a fullback and a guy that you can actually play as a tight end. Now, the Eagles love Kyrie Jackson, and they love, I believe it's Jack Stoll, the second or third tight end that they have on the roster. The problem with those two guys, you can't line those guys up in the H-back position. Could you do it with Dallas Goedert? I don't know. Maybe not. You know, 6'5", 6'6", that's a little big, you know, for an H-back. But you want that guy who's kind of in between that fullback position and that H-back position. And I was about to say about, because I was talking about it earlier, at the running back position, trying to, you know, you look at Miles Sanders, and I was shocked because, you know, I was reading through some stuff and saw that Miles was what, 6', 6'1", 211 pounds. I had no idea that he was, you know, that slight a frame. 211 pounds, that's not a very big back, you know. But what the Eagles have tried to do, they've tried to address the running back positions from a couple of different vantage points. Why in the world Jordan Howard wasn't on the active roster when you have a guy, Kenneth Gainwell, who can't protect, and he's going to be a strictly third down guy, young running back with plenty of time to develop and grow, okay? Jordan Howard should have been up. He's your battering ram. Boston Scott is a guy who can run between the tackles and on the edges. So even when against the Giants, when Jordan Howard was hurt and the Eagles were reluctant to run the ball, and everyone's excuse was, oh, we're not running the ball because Jordan Howard's missing from the game. Boston Scott was more than capable of carrying the load for 1 week or 2 weeks until, you know, you get Jordan Howard back, because he can run the ball with decisiveness. He's patient enough at times, and he hits it hard enough at times as well, where he could have picked up the slack. But then you have your home run hitter and Miles Sanders. And Miles, you can tell by the way he runs, I think one of the apprehensions and one of the problems that the coaches have with Miles is that Miles won't hit the hole. Miles is always looking for the home run. He's always trying to bounce it. He's always trying to, you know, in between the tackles, you can't run the ball up in there and try to make a guy miss in the middle. You can make guys miss from the tackles out. In the middle, all the bad guys are on the inside. So if they turn around and they force Miles back to the inside because he's trying to get away from a guy on the outside, guess what he does? He runs right into all the bad guys that are coming to the ball. Miles has got to learn how, if he's going to be that guy, he's got to learn how to, boom, hit the hole. There's certain plays that are designed for you to hit the hole and get what you can get. Not every running play is going to be a home run, nor can it be, okay? But when you get outside and you got one guy to make miss, go ahead and do it. And the issue, the thing with Miles is, what I love about Miles is that he's a home run threat every time he touches the ball. I don't care what anybody says. I seen the guy go 75 in a blink. And I know that he still has it in him and he can do it. There's a lot of people that are down on Miles. As a matter of fact, John, I'm looking at your comment right here. John Skeel says that Miles dances too much. Maybe. But what has to happen is Nick Sirianni and his coaching staff needs to make sure that you create running plays for him and call running plays for him that are from the outside shoulder of the guards and out. Because if you run him up in the middle, you know he's going to dance. So why would you even call a play and put him in that situation? If that's the play you want to run, bring in Jordan Howard, bring in Boston Scott. See, that's the difference between understanding how to you match up the players with the plays that you want, rather than just calling the play and just saying, hey, whoever's in there, all these guys can run. No, they all can't. You're not going to put Jordan Howard on the edge. Why? Because Jordan Howard doesn't run well from east and west. He's a guy that's going to put his head down and get all that he can going straight forward, and he's going to hit the hole. Okay, so therein lies the differences. But listen, I still got a lot of faith in Miles. I'm not so sure that if you're going to live in shotgun as much as the Eagles live in shotgun, that you can really even implement a traditional fullback. But an H-back, I would agree with you, yeah, because you can create some matchup issues. If you got an H-back that you want to use out of the backfield, you want to motion, create man-to-man situations, I agree. That's a good idea. And if he's a great blocker, when you get in your jumbo sets, you got a guy, that can lead block. So it's always a great benefit. Next question we got, it says, do you agree with what G. Cobb said about the head coach's pass happy? Listen, I think the entire NFL is pass happy. Running the ball isn't sexy. Sometimes I think owners and executive people in the NFL don't believe that that's an exciting brand of football. And I think that has led in some ways, to this past renaissance, that we've had. I think that, like G. Cobb said last week, hey, the passing portion of the offense is what Nick Sirianni actually knows best. It's probably what he wants to do. He wants to show his wits as an offensive coordinator, being able to throw the ball down the field. Having coached with Frank Reich and understanding, what they did with Phillip Rivers in Indianapolis last year. I don't think there's the only guys on the offensive side of the ball that hate throwing the ball as much as NFL teams like to throw it now are probably offensive linemen, because they're at a disadvantage. They're fighting on their heels all the time. Offensive linemen want to go forward. They want to mash people. They want to beat people up, and they go play action off of that. But if you're going to line up and throw the ball 50 times a game, those guys are in retreat all day long, trying to go against guys that's coming in with chop moves and spin moves and ET and TE stunts and all that kind of stuff. So it just makes it that much more difficult for them to do their job. But I do believe that a lot of the coaches in the NFL today, not only coaches around the NFL, but I do believe that Nick Sirianni, he wants to get this offense to a point where it can be explosive. You spent 2 first-round draft picks in back-to-back years on wide receiver. Well, you didn't draft those guys to block while you handed off to the running back 30 times a game. I get it. But there's a natural progression, like I talked about early on in the show. There's a natural progression to getting a young quarterback there, where he's able to take on more of a load and understand that, there's games where the running game is going to win you the game. That's what Mac Jones learned. I'm sure in his mind, he was like, only 3 passes tonight, but they won the game. We talked about it last week on the show with G. Cobb. Who cares how you win, what it looks like, especially for a young head coach who's trying to, leave his imprint or create his own imprint as a head coach. Who cares how you win? It's all about winning. Whether you throw the ball 50 times or whether you run the ball 40 times. The object is to win. And however it is that you can win, that's the way you should be calling your offense. And right now, running the football and play action pass is the best way for the Eagles to win the next 4 games. All right. It's also being more aggressive on the defensive side of the ball would probably do the Eagles defense a great service. I don't know about you guys, but I'm a little sick and tired of, these passive defenses that we play where we're lined up 7 yards off the ball, and every veteran quarterback that we play against, and even some of the young guys, once they see it, they just raise up and throw the 5-6 yard out. They'll gladly take that 5, 6, 7 yards on first down if you're going to give it to them, even on second down. And there's times on third down where it's like 3rd and 4, and we're lined up 7 yards off the ball. I mean, just go ahead and get them the first down. Just set the yardage markers before you even snap the ball, because that's what you're going to do. You're just giving it away. All right. All right. Gerardo says, will Gannon finally press wide receivers and blitz to force some turnovers and 3 and outs? He's my concern down the stretch. And listen, he's been my concern all year long, Gerardo. I just think that there's a time to be soft and there's a time to be aggressive. And there's been times during this year where I it's very rarely a situation where you actually see Jonathan Gannon being uber aggressive. And then to that point, sometimes, there's times to be uber aggressive. I think the teams need to be a lot more aggressive when you got a team pinned down in its own territory. They're coming out of their own end zone. Not a lot of teams really want to throw their way out of that situation. They try to run it, at least get it to the 5 or 10 to give themselves some breathing room. And then they may begin to, open up their offense a little bit. But where's your run blitz in those situations? Where you're man-to-man across the board, you're late to move to it, but you got a gap blitz coming everywhere. Everybody's got a gap. Hit your gap, hold your gap, okay? And if they want to run out of it, you're in a pretty much 7-man blitz. So you got all the gaps covered across the board so you can take care of the run. But at the same time, then you transfer, the run blitz into a pass blitz, and you're on the quarterback, forcing him to make quick decisions and get the ball out of his hands, okay? And I'm not saying that for your corners to be 7 yards off the ball either. You get up inside technique, you take away the inside release, and you give the quarterback one read and one read only. And it's got that fade stop, that quick out. It's got to be precise, and it's got to be, it's got to be perfect. So if you're a defense coordinator, it's about, okay, how do I stop them from taking as much real estate? Because football, in its essence, is really a real estate game. The offense is trying to take real estate. The defense is trying to prevent the opposing team from taking real estate, okay? So if I can figure out a way, to thwart what you're doing on the offensive side of the ball and prevent you from taking real estate. And as a matter of fact, if I can take some of your real estate going the other way, that's a major plus for the offensive side of the ball. Because and I see it more and more now. Teams will be 3rd and 5, and you see this sticks defense where teams line up, on that 15-yard line marker. The ball gets thrown short. They tackle him short of the marker, the first down marker. He just gained 13, 14 yards. And yeah, everybody's holding their hand up 4th down, but you just gave up 13 to 14 yards of real estate. That could be the difference between you starting on your 35 and you starting on your 20 to 25. If you're on your 35, you got 3 first downs and you're in field goal range. If you're back there, you got to make 4 to 5 first downs in order for you to be in field goal range. See, I don't know that data analytics even considers that kind of stuff, because everybody wants to play passive. Toby Cooper wants to know, do you think Gannon doesn't have the confidence in our defensive players? Well, listen, I think he's afraid of the deep ball. I think that's the thing that he fears most. And no one's ever accomplished anything out of fear. Are you going to give up some touchdowns? Sure. You might get beat if you play a little more aggressively. But it's not like, when you're playing passively and the team is just marching down the field on you, that when they get to the end of marching that they don't score a touchdown. So at what point in time do you ask yourself, is it a quick stab to the heart or is it a death by 1,000 cuts? Because that's the difference. But the end result is still the same. Okay. Or you put the pressure on and you flip that whole thing around and put it on the opposing offense. Can I force him? See, the Eagles are one of the worst defenses in the league in the turnover category. You want to know why? Because they're too passive. The reason more times than not, turnovers are turned because of the application of pressure. Okay, whether you're in a run blitz and everyone's hitting a gap, or a free guy comes up and he's got an opportunity to put a hat or a punch on the ball and get it out, or whether you got a blitz coming and you're bringing one more than the offense can actually pick up, and the quarterback got to hurry up and throw the ball, and he's only got one option. He's got one decision, and if it's the wrong decision, it's a bad decision. See, when you apply the pressure, that's when the turnovers come. But when quarterbacks can just sit in the pocket and get a pre-snap read of what zone coverage you're in and understand, okay, this weakness in the zone is over here. And he just turns and looks at his wide receiver and shakes his head like that. And before he even snapped the ball, the wide receiver knows what route he wants to run, and the quarterback knows where to expect him to be. That's like practice. That's like 7-on-7 in practice. And there's nowhere in the world that you can stop that. And there's nothing aggressive about that. And you can almost, at times, you can see in the players' posture that they're unhappy playing that way, and that they're unhappy that they just gave up 15 yards because the technique in that defense is to be 7 yards off, and when the ball is snapped, backpedal. You're going to give up 7 to 12 yards every single play on a play like that. Every single play. All right. Before I take the next question, I want to remind you guys to like and share and leave your comments on the show. From time to time, I'll be dropping in, looking at some of them, answering some of them, getting back to you. And of course, as always, please go over to the YouTube channel, Seth Joyner Show, and please subscribe. All right. So Fletcher Cooper wants to know, what's your thought on Fletcher Cox's play? Fletcher Cox play this season? Is he really getting double teamed that much? This is my opinion. I see a player in Fletcher Cox that potentially wants to be out of here. I don't think that Fletcher really likes the scheme of this defense and how they're asking him to play it. I see Fletcher getting stood up a lot in double teams. And I haven't played defensive line, since I was in junior high school. And the one thing that I know and remember about playing defensive line, the minute you get a double team, you go down on one knee to kill the double team right there where it is. Fletcher's standing up and getting driven off the ball, getting driven into, into the linebackers. When he's in that 3 technique, he wants to jump and take the B gap. And I'm assuming that he's being coached within this system not to play it that way. He just seems to me to be a guy who's somewhat disgruntled with how he's being asked to play the defensive tackle position. And he plays as though he prefers, not to be here. Now, I could be wrong, but I'm just telling you what I see with my eyes. The one hustle play that I saw out of Fletcher all year long was against the Jets last week, but 2 weeks ago. It's the first time I actually seen him actually running full speed to the ball, trying to chase something down. At times he looks disinterested. and I know how talented he could be. I'm not buying into, father time and all of that kind of stuff. I just think that, I don't think they do enough moving him around. They don't run enough stunts. They don't do enough things to keep him interested. And, when you got 700 pounds laying on you as much as, these defensive tackles do, you can kind of get worn out and worn down a bit. And this is one of the major problems that I have with, these guys now. You pay them so much money, but they're only playing 60, 65% of the plays. I'm just trying to figure out, has the game evolved that much? The guys can't play a full 60-minute game. I can't ever remember even wanting to come out of a game when I played. But these guys will tap out at the most inopportune time. Third down, crucial point in the game, with 4th and 1 from the 1. And you see some of these players, star players who are being paid as such, standing on the sideline with a Gatorade bottle, drinking while their backup and the 3rd and 4th team guys are in. Hello, those guys are backups, and you're the one that's making $20-something million a year for a darn reason. Get your ass in the game and make something happen. That's the kind of stuff that drives me crazy. But to answer your question, I just feel like Fletcher's not happy, and he strikes me as the type of guy that if he ain't happy, then he ain't putting out. All right. I think we got time for maybe 1 or 2 more, Zach. My homeboy Lawrence wants to know, can Gannon get anything out of Kerrigan at this point? Can he help us? Since he was in Washington last year, listen, he had nothing to give when they signed him. He was a shell of himself even last year. I mean, I understand what Howie was trying to do, but there's a difference between understanding when a guy is done and when a guy's got just a little bit left in the tank where, you can put him out there maybe 15, 20% of the plays. Ryan Kerrigan was done last year. This is a stealing year for Ryan Kerrigan. And boy, has he stolen. Because if he got 5 tackles, 5 hurries, or 5 assisted tackles, okay, I'll take this hat off my head right now and eat it, okay? That's what they've gotten out of Ryan Kerrigan. And it's a shame, because you can't tell me that there wasn't some young player out there somewhere that they could have brought in that was hungry, they could have given him those 20% of the plays throughout the year, and you could have got something out of them, or a young player that you can develop and bring along the way. But Ryan Kerrigan, yes, 100%, he was done, was absolutely done. Hey, listen, before I sign off here, make sure you guys put your predictions for Sunday against the Washington football team in the comments. Don't forget, the Seth Joyner Show giveaway next week. The autograph football and the autograph throwback helmet. And down the road before the season is over, we might even give away a Seth Joyner Philadelphia Eagles signed jersey. All right. Well, guys, I'm going to wrap it right there. As always, it's always a pleasure to be with you guys. Great to, answer some of your questions and some of your comments. And we'll be back next week. Hopefully, we'll be celebrating the Philadelphia Eagles win, one step closer to a potential playoff berth. And I'll be back here with a guest next week to break it all down for you guys. Special thanks to my producer behind the scenes, my man Zach James. And as always, take care of each other and be good to each other. But most importantly, make sure the world needs it more than ever. Make sure you guys love each other. I'll see you guys right back here next week, same place, same time. Peace.